Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. Bismillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Today I want to remind about the danger of takfir. Takfir means to declare a Muslim who is born a Muslim, who has become a Muslim, to be a kafir, a non-Muslim. And that process is called takfir. Of course, takfir exists in Islam when someone commits a sin and he or she meets the conditions of takfir as an individual, but we must bear in mind the following things. First of all, that people use takfir to cause havoc and to use terrorism and to engage in it. A lot of people use it to do that. Secondly, the people of Ahlul Sunnah, the ulama, the scholars of Ahlul Sunnah have said that every bid'ah generally they try to do takfir of anyone who goes against them, every innovation in the religion, and this generally ends up in bloodshed. Thirdly, takfir is the right of Allah alone, and then He may delegate it to the Prophet ﷺ. So whoever Allah said is a kafir, he is a kafir, and whoever Allah didn't say that person to be a kafir is not a kafir. Therefore, it's not allowed to do it. Fourthly, the very first bid'ah that we had in Islam, which is the bid'ah of Khawarij. And inshallah, I will make a separate video about that. The bid'ah of Khawarij is characterized by the Khawarij doing takfir of very important and great people in the history of Islam, like many of the Sahaba and so on. Of course, without any reason to do so, and even one of the earliest bid'ah also, which is Shia Rafida, the Shiites, they also do, until now, they do takfir. Even the people who follow the Khawarij now, they are found around the world. Even some have it as a country. The whole country follows it. They do takfir. So this is a very important issue, the issue of takfir. A Muslim, if he or she doesn't understand, there will be a lot of problems. So who is supposed to do takfir? Takfir, there is general takfir, which means that whoever says this or does this or believes this is a kafir. That's called general takfir. So this, if it exists in the Quran and Sunnah, then it's permissible for anyone to say whoever said it, whoever did it, and whoever believed it is a kafir. However, there is takfir which we call takfir of an individual, specific individual, which is in Arabic called takfir muayyan. So for example, you don't say that to say this or believe this or to do it is kufr. Not only that, you say that this individual by name is a kafir. So this second one, only the biggest ulama can do. Why? Because it has grave consequences. First of all, you're saying that he is not allowed to be buried among the Muslims. Secondly, that his wife is not allowed for him. Thirdly, that he cannot inherit from any of his relatives, and his relatives cannot inherit from him. And fourthly, that he will be forever in the hellfire. So these are grave consequences of declaring someone to be a kafir. So takfir muayyan can only be done by the scholars of Islam, not by any Joe public in the street, especially people who don't have any knowledge, not even small scholars, not even students of Islamic knowledge, not even pious, simple pious Muslims, let alone people who are engaged in bid'ah, let alone people who don't obey Allah, and so on and so forth, like we have now, unfortunately, in the Islamic world. So I want just to mention a few things about the conditions of takfir. The scholars, they've read the Quran and the Sunnah, and they came up with these conditions of takfir. First of all, the person must know that what he is doing or saying or believing is kufr. If he or she don't know that, they have an excuse until they know. Secondly, that they must not be under duress, and their mind must be present, and they must want to do it. So if anyone forces them, or they're, for example, intoxicated, or they do not understand what they're saying, due to excessive anger, for example, or extreme happiness that makes them forget what they're saying or doing, then in that case they do not become a kafir. Thirdly, that he does not have some form of doubt or misunderstanding. For example, someone believing that this hadith is sahih, in fact it's not sahih, or vice versa, that that hadith is not sahih. Or someone believing, for example, that the person delivering the message is not actually entitled to do it, and he is not knowledgeable enough to talk to him. So these are very important conditions. And they exist, of course. A lot of people go and do takfir of our rulers, our Muslim rulers. And this is one of the greatest sins. Why? Because it leads to terrorism. It leads to people going against the rulers. That in itself leads to all sorts of troubles. You can see now in Syria, in Libya. Of course, it nearly happened in Tunisia and in Egypt and other countries. So, and it keeps happening throughout the history of Islam. And like Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, the people who did khuruj against the rulers, they never brought any good almost. Any good they try to bring ends up being extremely bad and worse than what they were trying to correct. And that is because they try to do takfir of our rulers. Our rulers, alhamdulillah, they pray, they're Muslims, especially in the Persian Gulf, and don't listen to people who do takfir of everyone. We have Muslims who do takfir of everyone. They start with the rulers. So if you don't agree with them, they say you're also a kafir because you don't agree with them. Anyone who is working for the government is also a kafir, and so on. So we have a chain of takfir. So this is unacceptable. So therefore, this must be addressed. We must not be shy. We must not be afraid, and do it for the sake of Allah only. Not to get close to the rulers, not to get favors from anyone, not to get financial rewards and so on, and worldly. No, we want the reward of Allah in the akhirah. May Allah help us. So what happens, the third condition, where the person is not sure or he has certain doubts, is very well present among the rulers. Why? Because they have people who advise them. And these people advise, meaning on religious affairs. These people may be very well trusted by the rulers or by anyone else for that matter. But I'm talking about that because of the danger of this. And of course, they will trust them and they will believe. They will say, Sheikh, what do you think of this? He will say, this is someone, he doesn't know much. He's an ignorant person. He's not even a sheikh. He's not a alim. He's pretending to be one, and so on and so forth. Like it happened in the time of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, when the rulers, the khulafa in his time, many of them, they started forcing people to believe that the Quran, the word of Allah, is created. And of course, it's kufr akbar. But Imam Ahmad rahimahullah didn't do takfir of the rulers who used to say it, because he said they are ignorant. They don't understand. They have people around them who are misleading them. So this is the third condition. It's very important. It can apply also to simple people. So these are some of the things that I wanted to remind myself and you about. And anyone who is interested in takfir and learning more, he can of course do so. He must first learn Arabic though, and then continue. This is a very dangerous topic, very important topic. Due to its danger, not everyone must speak about it, must talk about it. I am just relaying what the scholars have said. And I hope that some people who speak English, they will be able to get benefit from this video. And this is just like they say, I've just scratched the surface, but I wanted to show that in order for someone to be declared a kafir, we have certain conditions. If they are not met, then this person can never be declared a kafir. So, and it's a huge sin. The Prophet ﷺ said, if a Muslim says to his brother, Ya kafir, and he's not like that, one of them will be. Meaning, if he says Ya kafir, one of them will be a kafir. So it's a huge sin. Why would someone in his right mind go forth and declare someone a kafir if he's a Muslim? Why do you want to get him out of Islam? We were trying to bring people into Islam. If you want to learn about takfir, you must learn the aqidah, the belief and the creed of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. You must read the books of Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, the books of Ibn Al-Qayyim, the books of Sheikh Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab rahimahumullah. All these are great scholars, and don't believe what people say about them. They explain the aqidah of Ahlul Sunnah. And the aqidah is the one thing that keeps us on the Sunnah. And from time immemorial, from the time of the Prophet ﷺ, until now, people try to knock us off that aqidah. And we cannot allow them to do it. Either they do so by ignorance or through ignorance, because they're jahil, they don't understand the importance of aqidah al-sunnah, which is taken from the Quran and Sunnah by the understanding of the Sahaba and the Salaf. Sahaba meaning the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and the Salaf meaning the pious predecessors, the first 3 generations of Islam. Or they do so deliberately, because they don't like the aqidah, and they don't like Ahlul Sunnah, and they don't like sometimes the deen. So they try to call people who call to this aqidah bad names, and it's not new. As you know, people call Allah names. People called all the great prophets and messengers alayhimu salatu wasalam bad names. Sahir, sorcerer, kadhab, liar, and so on. Majnoon, mad person. So why? This is not something new. And the scholars of Ahlul Sunnah throughout the ages have been called bad names. But how do you differentiate? By looking, by learning. By learning, for example, the aqidah of Ahlul Sunnah and comparing. So the takfir issue is very important. I just wanted to remind, may Allah help us all to follow the aqidah of Ahlul Sunnah until we die, and make us live with Ahlul Sunnah and die with Ahlul Sunnah, and resurrect us with Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and people who follow him, and help us to be with him in Jannah. Wa jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum.